Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Shaka from Mind's Eye Status here. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about the consequences of authenticity. This is based off a session that I had in my Diamond Eye Premium Clients group today, which is a mastermind where we focus on communication skills. And I'm going to share some of the lessons with you today. I had a very interesting experience last week when I received some hate mail on my Instagram. For those of you who are new to this podcast and you don't follow me on Instagram, for some context, I have a pretty large following, about 300,000. And that was grown organically over the last, well, I've been active for 5 years, but it pretty much blew up this year for the past 6 months or so. And last week, I received some very specific hate mail, which was extremely interesting and unique because they shared with me, of course, from anonymous accounts as hate normally comes from. They shared with me specific details about my earlier years. I'm 30 years old, and they shared details about my early 20s and late teens. And they were telling me that I'm fake, telling me that I'm scamming people and all sorts of things. And also that I used to look like, I don't like swearing on this podcast, so I don't have to, what do you call it? Check it as explicit, but they called me some bad names, let's say that. They said some pretty horrible things, which were descriptive of my past as well, unfortunately. And when that happened, it made me reflect on the consequences of being authentic because I took a step back and I read the message and I thought to myself, what would bring somebody to a point in their lives where they would see somebody else's success and bring them down, try to drag them down? And it reminded me of that quote that I actually ended up sharing on my Instagram, which I'll share with you now. It had to do with haters. And the quote was, "An athlete won't judge you for working out. A millionaire won't judge you for starting a business. It's always the people going nowhere who have something to say." One of the consequences of being authentic is you will receive hate. You will be judged. However, you'll be judged by exactly the right people. What do I mean by that? Being authentic exposes people who are not meant to be in your life. It exposes people who don't resonate with your energy nor with your vibe. So, why would you be a people pleaser if we have this perspective? If we know that when you're being yourself, when you're being authentic, when you're being true to yourself, and you're following your heart in life, you're going to filter out people that don't resonate with that version of you. That's a good thing. That's a positive because you're filtering out all the garbage, all the people that would hate you for being the authentic version of yourself or dislike you, to say the least. But what happens? What's the positive outcome of that? Who gets left behind? Everybody else that doesn't get filtered out, they're the people that truly resonate with you. In my earlier days, when I posted video after video on social media, if I listened to the hate, if I bought into the resistance that I felt of the fear of being judged, I would have stopped making videos that resonate with millions of people because I have millions of views now. That means millions of people who resonate with teachings of grounded communication, which is probably why you're listening to this podcast. Thank you, by the way. It means a lot. If you can rate it 5 stars on Spotify, I'd greatly appreciate that, by the way. It takes 3 seconds. I wouldn't be connecting with people like yourself who are passionate about personal development, who are genuinely curious, willing to educate themselves to become the strongest, best, most authentic versions of themselves. I wouldn't have the privilege, the opportunity to connect with someone like you. Not to mention my clients. I work with and have worked with hundreds of clients that I adore, that I have deep relationships with. That wouldn't have happened if I didn't follow my calling, if I listened to the haters. People rarely punch down. It's always people looking up, hating what they see, trying to drag you down and bring you down, who are punching up like minions. And I have to admit, I caught myself for a moment dwelling on that message, especially because it was quite personal. It made me deeply curious. Who is this person? And of course, they're anonymous. Whoever it was is irrelevant, because it reminds me of this amazing quote from Don Draper in the show Mad Men. By the way, guys, if you want to watch a show that has a very accurate display of high status communication skills, watch Mad Men, starring, what's his name? Jon Hamm. Amazing show for understanding social dynamics and watching it on display. There's a quote where somebody is really upset with Don Draper, one of the main characters, and he says something like, when I think about you, I have a really bad feeling. And Don Draper turns to him and he says, I don't think about you at all. That's the energy you want. So when I caught myself dwelling in it, reading that message, I thought, why am I even paying attention to this person? Clearly they're hating on me. They're thinking about me. So much so to the point where they felt compelled to message me. Meanwhile, I don't think about anybody from my past. Rarely. So that's the best revenge. Success is the best revenge. Not that this is about revenge, but that's the reality of it. And another consequence of being authentic is you are probably going to lose people in your life. But again, those are people that weren't meant to be in your life anyway. It's such a beautiful thing to be left with those who are authentically into you and attracted to you. This is professionally, socially, and romantically. We have to be prepared to accept these consequences. I have the list here from the workshop we did with our clients in front of me with a bunch of consequences of being authentic. Another one was, it's very confronting. A client of mine said that actually, which was a great answer. It's very confronting to be authentic, and you have to be prepared for that, because the authentic, true version of yourself is probably not what your ego expected. So it takes a lot of courage. I would say that's the key word for being authentic. It takes a lot of courage to look at yourself in the mirror, see who you truly are, and give that to the world. Because some people may not like it. Some people may reject it, and that's necessary. And you will receive criticism. But that's the only way to figure out who's truly with you and who isn't. And you can apply this to your day-to-day life. I know not everybody has a large social media following, but this is relatable to everybody. When you're in the office, you owe it to people to be authentic. The people that are going to be inspired by you, the people who look up to you, are going to be missing out if you hold back, if you wear a mask. You owe it to them. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your family to be authentic. The people pleasing that you experience now is going to be a regret that you feel on your deathbed. Nobody ever regrets being authentic. You won't. You simply won't. Anyway, that's more of the inner work when it comes to communicating. I will be recording podcasts on a weekly basis, and we'll have some guests coming up as well. If you watched until this far, I have a gift for you. Thank you for your support. Message me on Instagram, and I will give the first 10 people who listen to this and message me a free 30-minute consultation call on communication skills. So go ahead and do that on IG, Shako T. Lockman. Let me know that you came from the podcast, and I will see you guys next week.